Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. Real treat for you today. We have an upcoming series kind of in the same vein as what McFarlane Productions, Todd McFarlane, has been doing all year, coming out with these new series that kind of expand the Spawn universe, which is so interesting because, you know, Spawn's been around for, what is it, 30 years now.
32?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 92. So anyway, we're here to talk Violator today. I have the creators of that series, or two of the creators of that series, joining me today. Writer Marc Andreyko and artist Piotr Kowalski. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Hello.
So yeah, this is a big, wild, over-the-top series that fits in, and it's going to be exploring kind of the history of the Violator and what have you. But let's, before we get into the series, and we'll hear about the elevator pitch and what have you, can you remember the first time you saw Violator? Was it all the way back at his first appearance in Spawn 2? Mark, can you talk about that?
Gosh, that was probably, God, that was so long ago. That was so long ago. Yeah, but that back in the day when Image first launched and it was the thing that took the world by storm, yeah.
And right away you just thought, man, what a great design, what a cool character. I mean, he was completely over the top, little different than anything we'd seen before in comics.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing that attracted me the most was that Todd had left so much open for interpretation. And part of the thing with this story is because the basic overview of the story is it's six 48-page issues. Each issue has a different art team, and it explores Violator's sort of life story throughout time. But because he's a demon, he's a unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
So it all might be true. It all might be crap. It all might be a mixture therein of both. And this first issue takes place. This is actually the origin issue. This is who the Violator was before he was Violator, when he was an angel in heaven.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
awesome.
so, and Peter, who I've worked with, gosh, this is the third or fourth time. I think the first time we worked together was on Nightbreed from Boom. And every time I work with Peter is an absolute joy. He is so talented and so insightful and so fast that that you know if I could work with him for the rest of my career and him be the only artist I work with, I would gladly sign that contract right now because this issue is going to really show what an amazing, amazing artist Peter is because this every single page of this issue is just spectacular. Every single page of every issue, all these different art teams are all making me look like I know what I'm doing, and it's been deeply flattering and deeply humbling to see how these wonderfully talented artists are taking my scribblings and making them into just beautiful, beautiful books. So even if you're not a Spawn fan, look at these books. I mean, removing me from the equation completely, these books are absolutely stunning, and each one has its own distinct personality. And we couldn't launch with a better one than Peter's because there's some stuff with the War in Heaven that is just jaw-dropping. It looks like it could have been in a Renaissance church. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff.
Well, that's awesome. We'll talk a little bit about the designs and the freedom that this type of story offers you, Peter. But yeah, we got to know. You remember the first time you saw Violator? First time you're exposed to the character?
Yes, first of all, thank you for kind words, Mark. I mean, it's
Oh,
of course you
no, I don't
exaggerated a
lie.
bit, but thank you very much. I mean, the first time I saw Violator was kind of embarrassing, actually, because I was a teen, maybe 10, no, I'm sorry, 12 or 13 or 14 years old, and we were living in behind the Iron Curtain in a communist country.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to obtain comics was illegally. And then there was this publishing house who actually started printing comic books, like classic comic books, right after the fall of communism. And then I saw they released the very first, one of the first issues of Spawn with this clown thing, you know, this
Right, yeah.
clown image. And it has been haunting me for years. I mean, the Violator and the creature itself, and the clown and the Spawn as a series. So being given a chance to dip my finger into this universe and, draw one book. I could even draw one page and be like over the moon about it. So the idea of drawing actually the whole issue taking place in this world is phenomenal, and I'm really grateful to Mark, and I'm really grateful to everybody who accepted me for this job. And man, I can't even describe how happy I am with it. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah, dream come true. It sounds like.
Really, it's not an exaggeration. It's I really mean it.
Yeah, that's...
because I have been doing comics like for 30 years now professionally. Mm-hmm. I started in Europe, and I moved into the American market in 2010, 2011, and over those years, I drew a lot of stuff, but this may be my best work ever. I mean, like visually, and besides, the way Mark constructed the script is really unique, but it gave me so much creative freedom that I couldn't imagine a better way to release myself, because his script is very basic. I mean, I don't know if I can reveal your method publicly. Can I?
I think you're muted, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep my dog from making too much noise. The method, it's funny because I've written panel by panel, and I've written loose plot, and I've written sort of a hybrid Marvel style. And part of what working with Todd is Todd wants it to be in a plot style first, and then script it to give the artist the wiggle room, because obviously he's an artist and he knows that. So when I'm working with someone of Peter's caliber, it's like being the director and having a director of photography, that I tell him what the story is and what I need, but then I give him sort of free rein to interpret it on his way, because comics are collaborative. If I knew exactly how everything should look, I would write a novel and have to just work with myself. Yeah. I love the collaboration, because there's so many happy accidents when you do plot style. And plot style, this isn't Marvel style where it's one page for the entire 48 pages. I do page by page with the action that happens on the page, and maybe spots of dialogue just for the acting. But, I very rarely do I write up pages where I'm like, this is exactly how many panels it needs to have. I do that occasionally for pacing and for certain effects to sort of control the dialogue and stuff. But literally, I've been talked to Todd about this. I'm like, we should do a black and white version of this book when it's all done with no dialogue, and I'll just do commentary, because the art on this book is spectacular. And I know that comments are full of hyperbole and full of people going, oh, this is the best thing ever, and this will change everything. This book is, I think all these artists who I've had the pleasure of working with a number of times, they're all good. Their phones are all going to be ringing off the hook. I joke that none of them are going to take my calls after these books come out. They're all going to be too busy doing huge A-list projects. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of Peter's. Even before I started working with him, I own, if Peter's drawing it, I have the trade paperback collection, whether it's Sex, or whether it's Where Monsters Lie, or whether it's Eight Eyes, Eight Eyes? What is it?
All Eight Eyes.
All Eight Eyes. I mean, everything. Yeah. I've got every time I see Peter's name on something, I instantly will buy it, because he's that good. And with the speed with which he works and the quality, he puts a lot of American artists to shame, because he is incredibly talented and incredibly detailed without being fussy, and he can meet a deadline. I mean, it's and he's not lying. This is the work of his career. When it is. There are some pages that I just take out and look at and just stare at them, because they're absolutely beautiful. This is going to be a game changer for a lot of these artists who haven't had the chance to sort of do something a 48 pager and sort of focus on it. And we've had time too. This book has been in the works for a long time. When you have 6 different art teams, you kind of have to have wiggle room and be willing to see who's going to come on board and who's going to hit their deadlines. But everybody's been fantastic. It's been great. And the lineup is a murderer's row of people, both with names you'll recognize and people you've never heard of before, and they will dazzle you. And like I said, we couldn't start with a better first issue than what Peter's done, and the colorist too.
Oh
Rob,
yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, I wanted to mention Brad, yeah, because
Yeah.
Brad Simpson, he has been, I would say, he has been my regular colorist, but you know, very often he's the artist and I'm a worker really, because I have been working with him since our sex series. We started in 2003. Yeah, 2013. So we have been working together for like what,
11
12
years,
years now,
12 years, yeah.
something like that. Together we made over 150 issues.
Wow.
Yeah,
And that's
because
just this week.
overall
That's how fast he is.
over the years, and you know, he knows my style very well. So it's like I don't even require many corrections from him. Sometimes I need to, because you know there is a finger missing or the wing is the part of it, because my style is very detailed and a lot of details, and it's a nightmare for a colorist really to color it all properly. But he's doing it like top-notch quality work, and he's a painter. He's
You can
really
tell
a
he's a
painter.
you
Besides,
can tell.
he's a classically trained artist, so he paints, and that's just, man, it's mind-boggling.
And his palette, the color choices he
He's
makes,
a
are
magician.
so,
He's a
so
magician.
insightful and so beautiful. Yeah, I would love to see the book with all the black line of the art dropped out, just to see the color theory that goes on, and you know, just to see what his
Yeah,
things are like. Because, like I said, no lie, I will not be shocked if multiple issues of this get the artists nominated for awards, whether it's an Eisner or a Harvey or a Ringo, because each issue is a work of art, and that has nothing to do with me. These people, these artists are just, and each issue has its own distinct personality as well, which is really interesting. So you know, and like I've said, if I can't gush enough about Peter, working with Peter is just the easiest, most pleasant experience I've had, and I've been writing comics now for 30 years. So I started when I was 5.
wow.
Well, but you know, he's one of those people that's whenever I get a new project, he's always on my list. I'm like, what about him? What about him? What about him? Because you know, it's why you see like directors and filmmakers who work with the same people over and over again. And even with comics, like whether it's Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale or Mitch Gerards and Tom King, you want to work with the same people because one, you want to work with people that are talented, and hopefully, you know, I always like to work with people that I think are more talented than I'll ever be, because I want to, it keeps me on my toes to keep up with them. But there's a shorthand. You know, Peter and I have done, this is our third or fourth project, and we have a shorthand now, even though this is the first time I think we've actually met you know, image
Yeah,
wise.
yeah,
But there's a shorthand and a trust level there, and as I understand why people work with the same collaborators over and over again, because this is, you know, creating art, whether it's film or comics or whatever, is time consuming, and it takes a part of your soul, you know, because you're creating. It's like having a child in a lot of ways. And I could think of really no one more than Peter who I enjoy working with and I trust. And that's on any sort of story too. If I had a story about a man that ran a grocery store, I'd be like, oh well, Peter could make this really interesting. He's just got such technique, and he's not afraid to ask questions or afraid to say, I don't get this, or does this work, which you want as well. I don't need someone to tell me if you that how great I am or how perfect I am. No, 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 no. This is a collaboration. You know, I don't, if someone's too nice to me, I think they either hate it or they don't
yeah.
get it.
There's
You
something
know,
fishy going on.
I don't need people to blow smoke up my rear end. I want people to tell me what they think. And that doesn't mean in a mean way or an aggressive way, but you know, at a certain point when you're a creator, you get to a point where you ask questions to people where you actually want the answers from. And if people ask me a question, I'm going to give them an honest answer. And that doesn't mean, you know, being mean or being or being, bossy or anything. It's about, saying, hey, I didn't understand this, but this really worked for me. And a really detailed criticism or a really good dialogue between an artist and a writer is worth its weight in gold. It's just so great. And, and once again, I feel like I'm working with like Fred Astaire here, on a dancing movie. It's just like Peter is so good at what he does that I wish I had something bad to say about him. There
Well,
really
you
is.
don't know me really.
Well, in our working relationship,
I'm a pretty mean person.
yeah,
And I'm a
well,
death metal fan,
well,
That's
that
says a lot.
happens. I've lived through the Trump years, so I understand meanness. So, but yeah, no, it's like I said, the risk of just sounding like a Miss America speech and how everything was wonderful. It's been a joyous experience. And
Thank you.
with this many artists and this many pages and this many moving pieces, it could have easily cascaded into being a nightmare, just technically. And it has been, like I said, in my 30 plus years in comics, it's been one of my top five favorite things I've ever worked on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think part of it goes back to what you were saying, Peter, and clearly we can hear the passion for the project. Well, actually, what Mark mentioned, how Violator's a very unreliable narrator, and we've seen that over time. He's told stories, like the medieval Spawn debut issue and what have you. You never know. He's clearly tooting his own horn or what have you. But just based on that, based on the style that you're working in, and I can't wait to see this war of between heaven and hell that's in this first issue. But just sort of the situation, the type of story you're telling, and the way you and Mark work together, Peter, it just sounds like kind of the perfect project to kind of spread your wings, and you kind of get to. I mean, it's heaven and hell. It's
Well, no
fantastic.
pun intended. Angel
Yeah,
wings to spread. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Heaven and Hell is my favorite album by Black Sabbath. So, you know,
So having
that's
the ability to really put anything you want and go as big and crazy as you want in this issue,
and
that has
actually
to be
it's a
freeing,
very
right?
interesting. Yeah,
Having that
it's a very
freedom.
interesting thing because in this first tale, Violator is a pretty likable character. Mark, wouldn't you agree that we like him
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
mean,
he represents a certain kind of he's not sure, he's doubting, he's kind of lost, and he gets humiliated by this one Lucifer character, right? And he doesn't know what to do, and he bumps into things. So he's not this mean, I mean, not. I somehow I saw myself in him, which sounds weird, but to some extent it's true. And his bald head was a kind of a whose idea was it to make him bald? Was it mine or yours? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't remember really. I
But
think.
it's the idea of showing his bald head. It's like hairless characters are usually wise. I mean, they look wise.
Hmm.
Well, you can make a bully who's hairless, right, and skinhead type, but usually I think we are all three of us during this interview are
We're
a
all
bit
wise.
hairless.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're all very wise.
So I'm sure you agree with me. There's a kind of wisdom
Oh
in
yeah.
him,
That's because
and there is the kind of
we save all that
he's
time
also
getting
wit.
haircuts, so
Yeah,
we have time to be
he's
wise.
very interesting opposition. Gloriana is a very opposite character, very interesting opposition to him because she represents this everything that Violator is lacking in the story, and I love them both really. And there is that great chemistry between them, almost sexual sometimes, although we didn't show it in the story. But I was always wondering if that was your intention to make it kind of to imply kind of sexual tension between them.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the angels have gender attributes, but it's more energy
Yeah,
than it is physical
yeah,
because God created man and sex and all that stuff. So there were each angel has a counterpart who is sort of part of them, but it's really not physical because that doesn't really work with the way angels are. And that's part of the catalyst of the story. I was raised Catholic and I went to Catholic school. So subsequently, I'm an atheist because of that, but because of all the theatricality of Catholicism and all that stuff that
Yeah,
happened, I
yeah.
really there's a lot of me in Violator as he's sort of questioning,
Hmm.
do we have free will or is this predestined? Because it can't be both. And is asking questions a bad thing? Is asking questions making me have no faith? That doesn't seem to really gel either. So, no one is born a villain. So, and no one really,
Yeah,
unless they're
yeah.
Violator when he is in his demon form, thinks what they're doing is evil for fun. No one sits around and goes, how am I going to overthrow the world with my evil plan? So we have to see where people come from, where personalities come from. And the freedom that Todd gave us to tell this story is pretty mind-boggling. When you think of who Todd is on the food chain and who these characters are, for him to give us the keys to take care of his babies and tell new stories and acknowledge what's gone before. I'm not sort of reinventing the wheel or anything, but doing research, it was like, oh, there's so many places to tell interesting stories about this immortal entity that's literally been around. I mean, the first issue is called The End of the Beginning because
Mm.
it is the end of that opening first couple of pages of the Bible. It's what happens after creation starts. And it's both a very um, physical issue with what Peter's drawn, but it's also a very internal issue because, I've always said that what makes Spider-Man interesting isn't the fact that he's fighting the Green Goblin. It's the fact that he's Peter Parker and he has to pick his
Yeah,
aunt from the hospital and he's late for school and he has a cold
absolutely.
and they're going to get evicted. Oh, and his number one villain is his best friend's father. The fight scenes write themselves. You have to have character and you have to have emotion and you have to have a true, and this is going to sound pretentious, but you have to have an honest core, no matter how fantastical the story is, for people to have a tether to. And I think that even though this is a story about a fallen angel who becomes this demon, who becomes this evil, this mischievous, sort of just delicious guy, is relatable in the sense that sometimes the things you admire, whether it's your parents or whether it's a teacher or whether it's a celebrity, you see that they have flaws too, and that sort of rocks your world. And you're like, oh, I thought they were the ones that told me everything that was correct. But no, we're all in this together. It's all sort of trudging along, and it's a very weirdly human story, ironically,
It
and
is.
and once again to go back on the how great Peter is trained. Peter can draw two characters talking for 4 pages with the level of excitement and visual energy and detail that the War in Heaven pages are like. I mean, because there is a lot of characters talking in this book
Hmm.
among
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Well,
big jaw-dropping scenes, and Peter treats them all with they're all his favorite children. There's nothing phoned in here. There's no page where you're like, oh well, this one he just sort of rushed through to get to the good stuff. And when you get to page 37 on, it's just work like you've never seen. It looks like Renaissance, you know, Christian artwork. It looks like etchings. It's just jaw-dropping. And then with the colors added on, I'm like, can we just take all my word balloons off? I just want to look at this book.
well, I can't wait to check it out. But it's interesting when we talk about this character. He's completely over the top. He's a fan favorite because of that kind of freedom he has to do, whatever he wants. But to your point, Mark, about making him kind of human and relatable, the thing I think that makes him work is the dramatic tension, right? And this happens right from the start, right in issue 2. It's that triangle, right, between Malbolgia and Violator and Al Simmons. And at the end of the day, it's about this guy's relationships, right? Like, just like us, just like in our lives, to some people were a brother, to some people were a son, to some others were, a parent. And so it's those different kind of character dynamics. So with Peter's art and with this fantastical tale and the gorgeous colors from Brad Simpson, at the core, it's a story about relationships and character dynamics and how they play off each other, and that's where you get invested as a reader. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's asking for empathy for characters is not asking for sympathy for characters. Those
Right.
are two different concepts. And the example I always use is the movie My Friend Dahmer, which is based on that great graphic novel by Dirk Backderf. It challenges you because it's not telling you that you should forgive Jeffrey Dahmer, but it's showing you how he was shaped into what he was. And empathizing with someone is not sympathizing with them. You can,
Yeah.
and I want people to go, oh, I might not have made those choices, but I kind of get his point of view. There has to be that, or your villain is just, I mean, is just a madman and just insane. There has to be a logic behind it and to why they're doing what they're doing. And it's not an easy choice for him. I was amazed at writing it and getting the pages about how empathetic you are to Violator. You kind of get him in this, and you're like, oh, and it's not the jokey sort of sardonic monster guy that you're used to. It's this, oh, we see what led to that. And like I said, I can't wait for people to see it because I think even if you have no interest in Spawn, you're going to look at this book and go, wait a minute, this book is gorgeous. What's going on here? And hopefully my writing isn't going to ruin the artwork. Hopefully my writing deserves the artwork that we've gotten because, like I said, it's a master class in art with all 6 issues. It's been a joy, and I do want to give a shout out too to both Todd McFarlane, who I've known for decades now, who's been just such a cheerleader. Like, oh no, do stuff, do stuff. You guys are doing stuff that I can't do. So, and our editor Thomas Healy, who has been juggling all the McFarlane books and this book with me and with 6 different art teams and
Yeah.
48 pages an issue, and there's so many places where it could just be a nightmare. And like I said, this whole process and 30 years in comics, this has been easily one of the most professional and one of the most easy and most enjoyable experiences. And it could have gone, me and my ideas, like, when I did Sam and Twitch, I'm like, let's do an arc with each page is 3 panels, and those panels are Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 simultaneously. And I'm like, let's do a 48-page book with 6 different art teams. It all sounds good on paper, but then I'm like, oh, yeah, it's like saying, let's build an arc. You're like, oh, okay, it's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
everybody has just been rising to the occasion.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but oh, now I got to do the work. But the other part
Yeah,
of that is when it is a project like this, and you're enjoying it, that comes through, and then we as readers, it's kind of infused in the energy of the book, and it just makes it that much better. But going back to talking about character and this dynamic tension and what have you, let's go back to you, Peter, because we've talked about the freedom that you've had to kind of go crazy with this giant war and fantastical things you get to draw. But when it is that dramatic tension, now we're talking about something different visually. To Mark's point earlier about drawing those moments where it's maybe 2 characters talking back and forth, and you can still infuse excitement in it. Is it challenging? Is it enjoyable? Is it maybe both? When you do have those pages where body language matters, acting matters, because you are trying to get across that tension, whether it's sexual tension between the 2 main characters or something else you're trying to convey, something you're aware of, needing to infuse the relationship aspects into your visuals?
It's a very interesting question because making comic books, drawing comic books, to me, it's very much like making a movie. I mean, you have your actors, you have the main characters, other characters, you have a plot, you have the setting, you have the set, you have emotions, things happen, you have action, you have characters talking. And this is why I do not draw those, I call them for my own personal use, those blank panels when you have only a head and there is nothing behind it.
Mm.
Because it's not what you see in movies. In a movie, you have always someone standing in a room or in the open area. Something is going on, always. And so even if I have characters like talking over the 2 or 3 or 4 pages, something is going on behind them. They are standing somewhere or in this case, floating in a whatever it is in space, and you see the stars and you see the planets, but something is behind them. And the trick is to put the camera to make the image interesting for the eye, because it comes easy to me because I had been working as a storyboard artist in Europe for over 16 years on many movies, advertising and stuff. So it's actually very natural to me to imagine where I can put the camera to capture my actors' in the best way possible to make the sequence interesting, because my job is to make it interesting. This is why I never copy panels. A lot of comic artists do that. I mean, if you have a fixed angle, for example, and the script says it's a fixed angle, so the camera stays, it does not move. So the easiest choice would be to repeat the same panel, maybe change lips somehow or whatever, and then the dialogue, the text will do the rest. I always try to do something else, like the character is touching his or her hair or something like that, or something like, any kind of gesture to make the page work. And I really enjoyed that. And in this case, in case of this particular story, there are several conversations between Gloriana and Violator, very meaningful conversations, and they get closer, and she gets offended, or she's shocked, and she flies away, and he's left alone pondering about things, thinking about things, and that's actually very interesting. I would even say much more interesting than a battle scene, because drawing a battle scene is pretty easy. I mean, it may sound weird, but it's easy, because the battle itself is a very engaging situation, very engaging sequence, and it's very dramatic, and it can't look boring. I mean, it will always look attractive because it's a battle. But the conversation is, I really enjoyed that. And I was, luckily, Marc's script gave me a lot of freedom, because for example, one example from a script, they are talking. That's in the script, that they are talking. Like, I imagine I'm looking at the page, and I can imagine, okay, we would have, because, let's say Violator thinks about what he heard previously, and he's not sure what he heard, and Gloriana tries to explain something to him, but that's all I get. They're talking. And now my job is to, which is wonderful, my job is to, okay, so how do we play that? Where do I put them? What is behind them? How do I tilt? Do I tilt the camera, or straight on face, or from the side point of view? That's very interesting for me personally. It's very joyful. I get a lot of fun.
And you can tell, and what's sort of lost in a lot of mainstream comics today is you should be able to look at a page with no dialogue and be able to get the general gist of the story.
Yeah.
And there'll be nuances and specific things that that need to be expressed through dialogue. But you can look at this book with no dialogue on the pages and know exactly what the story is. And that is getting to be a lost art in a lot of comics, where you have great splash pages that are beautiful images, and you have fight scenes, but there's no background. So you don't know where you are in space. You don't know where you are. It's just like, if some books, you remove the dialogue from them, and you're like, I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea where we are. And it's again why I want to do a collected edition of this with just the art for the whole series, because these guys, are just all doing work that is, once again, I feel like the Wizard of Oz, this little man behind a curtain, and all these guys are making me look like I know what I'm doing. And it's such a wonderful thing to get these pages in. Whenever I get pages from Peter, I'm like, oh my God. Wait, I ran out of adjectives in the emails to be like stunning, gorgeous, amazing, beautiful. I'm like, I begin to sound like someone's cheerleader, but it's true. And Peter has that training and that technique, and you can see that working on storyboards and doing commercial stuff leads to this, because when you're doing storyboards, you have to show the client everything.
Yeah,
you can't cut corners. You have to show if it's a beer commercial and they're in a pub in the Alps, you have to draw all that stuff so the client can see what's going on. And and it's not easy to do. Some artists, sometimes detail and lots of cross-hatching and stuff covers up a lack of actual understanding of light sources and structure and design and layout. And once again, it's why Peter's on my list of people to work with whenever I get the chance to, because at the very least, your book, no matter how good or bad the script might be, your book is going to look absolutely stunning. And I don't say that lightly. I'm just in complete awe and joy that I get to do this, get paid to do this, and get to work with people who I'm huge fans of. So
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about here in terms visually, but this is also true narratively. Context matters, right? The setting matters. If you want the story to feel rich and we want to understand, to your point earlier, Mark, understand the motivations. Maybe we don't agree with the choices Violator makes, so we wouldn't make those same choices ourselves in the same situation. We understand why he does. So context matters both in terms of characterization and in terms visually, to your point, Peter, about always having backgrounds, always having things going on.
Yeah.
So super excited for the book, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking the time. So originally, everybody, the release date was September 18th. Now, Image has come out and said they've had some issues at the printer, so it's been delayed till the 25th. But now is the time. Today is when you need to let your comic shop know, not only, hey, I'm going to be picking up Violator issue 1, but also subsequent issues. Nothing helps out more, both from the local comic shop perspective and them to understand how many they need to order, but also to help out Mark, to help out Peter, to help out the rest of the creative team, so that they know, hey, there's a demand for this, and they can get the amount of orders. And if we want amazing things, like I'm with you, Mark. I want to see a director's cut of this. It'd be great to see the process. Here's the pencils, with no color. Here's the color by itself. Here's what they look like together. That would be just amazing. So yeah, tell everybody out there watching, listening, let your local comic shop know you want this. Again, first issue should be out Wednesday, September 25th.
And if I can add one thing,
yeah,
we're here talking about the first issue, but the whole series, some of the artists on the book include Kevin McGuire is drawing an issue, which is going to be stunning for those of you who are really young. Getting to work with Kevin after his Justice League stuff is a dream. I got to work with him on Supergirl, and to bring him on board, this is great. We've got Kyle Holtz, who's doing the second issue, which is Vikings in the 1200s, and it's insane. The third issue
This guy is amazing.
The third issue is Jonathan Wayshak, who I worked with on a book called The Ferryman a few years back. His stuff is sort of like if Ralph Steadman and Sam Keith had a baby. It's amazing. The fourth issue is an Italian artist who I discovered on LinkedIn, of all things. LinkedIn actually got someone a job. His name is Gianerico Bonascore, and his stuff, it's all painted. It's all gray tones and watercolor, and it looks like Esad Ribic and Russell Dauterman were Brundle Fly. The fifth issue, like I said, is Kevin, and the sixth issue is one of Todd's regular guys, a Filipino artist named Von Randall, whose stuff is sort of a John Paul Leon, Tommy Lee Edwards vibe to it. And like I said, each book has a distinct personality, but it's a cumulative story that plants seeds for other stories later on. And every time I email Peter, I'm like, "What are we doing next? Let's lock something down. Let's lock something down." Because I want him to be my guy. I want him to be, when they see his name, then they see my name. Because there's a reason why he works so much. It's because he's a joy, and his joy of being a good person is matched by the talent he has.
Yeah, well, just in our email exchange, it was so clear that Peter was so excited to come on and talk about this, which I always appreciate, because and you were a little worried, Peter, ahead of time, worried about vocabulary or what have you. You didn't need to worry at all. You're more articulate than I am, and so thoughtful with your answers. So thank you for that. But I do find that sometimes when I have people on where English is not their second language, they are a little more hesitant. Oh, I don't know if I want to come on. They're worried. But man, you were so excited to come on, so I really appreciate that. If people want to follow along with your work, Peter, and know when you have other things coming out, do you have a presence on social media? Is there someplace people can follow you?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. I post my stuff on Twitter. I'm on ArtStation. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My account is a bit old, but I should have updated, but I'm there too. So yeah.
Okay, and I'll put
Basically,
links.
I publish my stuff on Twitter, because I mean, X. It's
Yeah,
now
no,
called.
no. I still cut.
Yeah,
It'll always be Twitter, but I'll put a link to Peter's Twitter in the show notes, everybody. So if you're having
yeah,
trouble finding him, you can go and click there, and again, you'll know when he has things coming out and what have you. And certainly reach out after this first issue drops and let Peter know what you think. I'm sure he'd love to hear your thoughts. And what about you, Mark? Where's the best place? I know it's these places aren't the best anymore. But,
Facebook. I'm no longer on Elon Musk's hate page. Um, could get, Elon Musk is the poster child for tell me you have a micro penis without saying those
Yeah.
words.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
a man who, like Roy Kroc with McDonald's, invented nothing but screwed the people that did, and everyone thinks he's a genius. Anyway, that's my TED talk about him. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram are
Okay.
generally the places for me. I want to do one last thing. I want to give a shout out to Peter again because Peter is working on a project for Z2 that I know he's very excited about. He is the
Oh
artist
yes,
Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden.
yes.
He's writing a 12-issue story, and Peter is the artist on it. And I know through my friend Rance, who's the big editor over there, how excited Peter is because he first came to Peter's attention, or Peter first came to his attention. I did a Tori Amos song adaptation for the 30th anniversary of Little Earthquakes, and I said Peter's got to draw it. And then from there, he's now doing this project because, as he's mentioned, he's a heavy metal, death metal guy, and it makes me so happy to see how excited he is to get to work with. Because I know what it's like to get to work with your idols. I mean, I wrote a story early in my career that Richard Corbin drew, which is ridiculous. It's like getting Stephen King to write your paper for you. It's just like, wait, how does that work? So I'm glad that Peter's joy and talent is getting him jobs that he's passionate about because it's just as beautiful as Violator.
Yeah, I think that was announced at and Bruce was there at WonderCon this year.
Yeah.
That project for Z2. So yeah, another dream come true, another bucket list item for you, huh, Peter?
I mean, yeah, Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden and his solo stuff. This music has been with me since I was really a kid. Iron Maiden is my favorite group ever, and working with Mr. Bruce Dickinson is like, man, I worked with Stephen King before, but and with Dr. Stoker, he's not a son of Bram Stoker, the writer.
He's the grandson or grandnephew.
Grandson. Yeah, we did a comic adaptation of his novel Dracula Undead, I think is the original title. And I worked with a lot of people, but working with Bruce Dickinson is like, man, besides the guy is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so likable character. I mean, character. I shouldn't say that.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that you
Creator.
how Iron Maiden is your favorite band
Yeah.
because the War in Heaven scene in Violator 1 definitely hit the underscoring music for that is Run to the Hills.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Like I said before, this particular comic Violator may be my best work I've ever done. Honestly, it's like when I'm thinking about it right now and all these comics I have drawn over the years, this is my best. I hope the printer will do a good job. I mean, the printing house, because sometimes it's, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
We're recording, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not
That's the good thing about working with Todd because Todd, coming from an art background, he makes sure everything.
I mean, bad printing can totally destroy a good art.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
flexographic press?
just disaster.
Remember in the 80s when DC did the flexographic press and all the yellows were neon and everything, and it was like, oh,
yeah.
no.
Funny thing. When I was doing comics for in Europe, and I was working on one of my series, they actually, I mean, I'm not sure if they do this anymore. They invite you to the printing house, and you certify every copy of the printed page with your signature, whether you accept it or not. And then they know that they have to go this way with this level of magenta, with this level of saturation of colors and stuff. If you don't approve of it, the test print from the printer. If you don't approve of it, they will try to make it better and stuff. This is how it should be done.
Yeah, so much of American comics are just getting the books out, making the widgets to get out. That what the luxury of a standalone 6-issue series where we had as much time as we wanted has been a real luxury. And I know that's not possible when you have monthly books and there's corporate things. But I wish we could take a little bit of breath in the process of a lot of mainstream comics and give that extra, let's give it one more look. Let's do this. Let's do that, because the amount of time put into this book, you can see. It's like when you see a movie, like when you see Godzilla -1, it didn't cost a lot, but every penny is on the screen. And every penny of the big budget movie that this Violator is on the page. It is well worth your $5.99 for these 48 pages of art. It is, and if you like the story, that's even a bonus. So, but it's once again, you do this long enough, and you get to a certain age where you're like, you only want to work on projects that you want to see.
Yeah.
And this is a book that I had the idea for years, and when I pitched it to Todd, I was pleasantly surprised by how quickly he's like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And like I said, it's turned out to be a dream project. So I hope all your listeners give it a shot, because I think even if you don't know the Spawn world, you don't have to. It's meant to be accessible. Each issue is meant to be standalone and accessible to tell a cumulative story. And there's stuff in there for long-time readers of Spawn, but there's also uncovering new stuff. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, having an unreliable narrator. What is really true about all this?
Yeah, I mean, between the art and this incredible story, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And to your point, Mark, about Todd being an artist, and the production values on his book are always high. I mean, he's not going to put something out there that doesn't look like it's supposed to look,
Yeah, it's pretty rigorous, actually. It's pretty rigorous. And before a book goes to press, it's pretty fine-tooth comb, making sure everything meets the standards that he has set.
Yeah, again, whether it's toys or other merchandise or comics or what have you, we know Todd's a stickler, and that's a good thing. So,
and this first issue, we have a variant cover by Todd as well, which is
he did it. Yeah,
we have a Violator cover by Todd as well, and all the covers. There's 3 covers on this first issue. They're all freely orderable. None of them are incentives. None of them are like this one. You have to order 15 copies on a Tuesday and stand on one foot to get it. They're all pick and choose the ones you like, which I love about Todd. He doesn't like doing those chaser covers unless it's a very special circumstance. And to have Todd have a cover on a book I wrote is once again like, I live a pretty nice life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then Peter has a cover, and Francesco Mattina has a cover, everybody. So, go get the cover you want, but definitely be sure you pick it up. And again, let your local comic shop know, hey, man, I'm in for this whole series. Make sure to order me a copy. You don't want to miss out. So, again,
and the series will be monthly because all the issues are done.
There you go. Don't have to worry about it.
They're barring paper shortages like that Image just had. This book will be a regular book. This won't be a book where there's like issue 1, issue 2, and then 9 months, issue 3, and then 3 years later, issue 4. The birthing process was long, but that ensures that the readers get a regular fix, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, awesome. And you keep that flow. So again,
the
gentlemen,
darkness is creeping in on Peter. Look it's getting dark in Poland.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, remember he's many hours ahead of us. So we'll let you get back. Probably dinner time over there. Peter, thanks so much for joining me, gentlemen. Super excited for the series, and really
thank you for having me.
Time.
Thanks for having us. And if you want to talk later as we go through the book with the other art teams, let me know. I'm nothing makes me more happy than sharing these people, these talents with a wider audience, because they all deserve to be A-listers.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for joining us, whether you're checking us out on YouTube or listening to audio-only feed. We really appreciate the support, as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.